Welcome to MTG Friends. I'm Ryan. We're going to do a Commander deck tech. This is a little pet project I had. It's not necessarily up on the top ranks of best commanders to play, blah, blah, blur, dee, blah. But this one is super fun. I think you're going to really enjoy this. It does have some serious competitive feel to it. It does have some win cons, and yeah, it's got all that snazzy, shenanigan-y stuff. All right, we're going to be mainly focusing on red spells in this. Firesong and Sunspeaker, it's a 6-drop, but we have tons of ramp in white and red to kind of get us there early in the game. Red instant and sorcery spells you control have lifelink. Life gain deck? Sort of. You'll see what I mean. Whenever a white instant or sorcery spell causes you to gain life, Firesong and Sunspeaker deals 3 damage to target creature or player. That part isn't very important in this synergetic build. Talking with my hands like usual. All right, let's check the packages. All right, let's go. Let's do this. We got a lot of burn to your face. So we're going to be doubling up on, not only are we going to be burning the creatures on the board, burning target opponents with some snazzy stuff in terms of creatures and spells that do extra burn. Oh, speaking of which, that's one of the packages, yo. We got just full on life, some win cons in that little package. Few protection pieces, mainly to keep our pieces alive, yo. I just yo'd you, yo. We got a lot of ramp. That's red-based and white-based. We got some draw, the kind you would expect. Yes, indeed. A few removal pieces, mainly removal in terms of like removal of persnickety pieces that might be indestructible, artifacts, enchantments, that kind of stuff. Or just, you know, some gamble stuff. You know what that's all about, right? Some extra burn, which just means, yeah, we burn on the battlefield and or the face and then double up on that burn. Those kinds of things. I did throw in one pure shenanigan piece. We'll talk about that later and why it's just super decrepit and decrepit? Is that the word I'm looking for? Maybe. We got some treasure enabling pieces in here, and then our land package, which is the basics of what you'd expect to see in Boros. And if you're relatively new in Magic, I'm just using a fancy word for white red. You know. All right, so let's get into this. Folks. Thanks for being part of the MTG Friends clan. Let's do it. All right, I'm going to read this one more time because we all have an incredibly short attention span. Put in the comments how short your attention span is. By the time you go to write it, you probably forgot you were going to do it. What? All right, red instants and sorcery spells you control have life link. That is the most important part of this commander and build. Let's get ready to rumble. All right. So apparently we are going to go into burn spells. Burn spells first. It's worth mentioning that there are going to be some other mechanics in here that when we do burn, it'll either triple it up, double it up, add an extra damage, or even better, if we're doing excess damage, it's going to send it to our opponent's face. There's going to be a few really fun, cool, synergetic pieces in here for that kind of stuff. And as usual, if I haven't already said this before, or you're new to the channel, I will mention which ones are completely swappable and which ones you really should keep in here and or proxy if it's a budget thing. We do not do budget stuff here. No, thank you, Surrey Bobbilicious. Acidic Soil does 1 damage to each player for each land he or she controls. We're in lifelink, so the giving ourselves damage isn't as big of a deal. Anger of the Gods for 3. The other thing I really like about these kinds of like niche red burn spells is they're actually not that expensive, financially speaking. I mean, this isn't a budget deck, though. Don't get me wrong. Angel of the Gods. Sorcery speed, and also don't ever forget what's a sorcery and what's an instant. I do that so much in green for some reason, especially when it involves Infect. Anger of the Gods. Deal 3 damage to each creature. If a creature dealt damage this way would die this turn, exile it instead. Exile their creatures? Yes, thank you very much. Blasphemous Act. We, not to spoil the rest of this episode, but we are running Stuffy Doll and we are running Brash Taunter. So we'll get to that later. Cost 1 less for each creature on the battlefield. That's targeted at you, elves and or spirits and or whatever tribal shenanigans you got going on. Slivers. Deals 13 damage to each creature. Boom. Burn down the house. This was actually in standard decks a bit. It's actually a pretty decent card for 5. Choose one. Burn down the house. Deals 5 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. It's in this build because of that planeswalker part. Not that you're going to run into a bunch of planeswalkers all the time, but 5 damage is very solid. Most across the board burn spells are like 4 or less. This one is 5. We dig it. The other one, which you probably wouldn't need or want, is create 3 red devil creatures that also ping the face when they die for uno. Chain reaction for 4. Chain reaction deals X damage to each creature, where X is the number of creatures on the battlefield. I think that's very, very self-explanatory. Trip X, red. Crackle with power, deal. Let's try that again. The name of the card, Crackle with Power, deals 5 damage. I'm not editing this out. Crackle with Power deals 5 times X damage to each of up to X targets. So because of all of our ramp and treasure token creating, we very well can get that XXX up real high because it does 5 times whatever you put into it. Clear as mud? Yes indeed. If I need to go back to this for you specifically, just put it in the comments. Delayed Blast, Fireball with Foretell 6. Foretell is really cool. You just pay 2 and put it aside. You can't play it that turn though, so any concurrent additional turns you can play it for its Foretell cost, which does other awesome stuff. It deals 2 damage to each opponent and each creature they control. If it was foretold, as in from exile, it deals 5 damage to each opponent and each creature they control instead. So like stuff like Blast Furnace and all those kinds of things is going to make that even more jankalicious fun. Earthquake, rumble, X red. Earthquake deals X damage to each creature without flying and each player. Yep. Just some typical burn that's going to get doubled up or do extra stuff for us in this build. And don't forget, our commander gives all of these spells lifelink. Yes. Fault Line deals X damage to each creature without flying and each player. Hour of Devastation. All creatures lose indestructible until end of turn. Hour of Devastation deals 5 damage to each creature and each non-Bolas planeswalker. Yeah, okay, whatever. Very specific. Just keep in mind, if and when you play this card and you have Stuffy Doll out or Brash Taunter, it's also gonna hit those because it removes the indestructible for that turn. So just keep it in mind. You just a couple pieces here and there that circumvent some of our cool stuff, but has great payoff. Incite Rebellion for 6. Ooh, 6, but it does good stuff. For each player, Incite Rebellion deals damage to that player and each creature that player controls equal to the number of creatures they control. Board goes wide. You can whack-a-mole all sorts of creatures. We're running a very thin amount of creatures because we have so much burn and removal at our fingertips. But the pieces we are running that are creatures do good stuff. Jaya's Immolating Inferno, X red. You can cast a legendary sorcery only if you control a legendary creature or planeswalker. most likely going to happen. This one is swappable. So if you're not feeling this one, just swap it out. We got a lot of other really great stuff going on in here. Deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. Targets as in opponent. Most likely. Molten Disaster, X, red. Kicker, red. And that kicker is to make it so that it is not counterable with split second. So goes on the stack, it resolves before anything else happens. If it was kicked, it has split second. Molten Disaster deals X damage to each creature without flying and each player. Boom shalaka. I was going to say malaka. Umlaka? It doesn't matter. Rolling Earthquake, X red. Rolling Earthquake deals X damage to each creature without horsemanship and each player. Horsemanship. Come on, people. So a lot of burn spells. And if there is a burn spell that's not in this list that I have that you really want to see in, just swap it. Swap it for whatever you want. 5 red. Destroy target land. Star of Extinction deals 20 damage to each creature and each planeswalker. Doesn't do it to their face, but some of the stuff we have will. Star Storm. Star of Extinction. Star Extinction is so awesome as well as Star Storm. Wow. I totally lost the ability to speak there. All right. Star Storm deals X damage to each creature, and you can cycle it for 3. You're not going to cycle this unless you are in a jam. Sudden Demise. This is super funny, except for if you're playing like Eldrazi's, which are colorless, and that sucks for you. Then this spell may not be great. Choose a color. Sudden Demise deals X damage to each creature of the chosen color. So assuming they're not playing a colorless deck with Tron or something, you are just doing groovy with this one. And they're not playing mono red, because then it might totally jack up your deck too. All right, we are in draw. There is the typical draw you'd expect, except for this one. This one's kind of new and interesting. It's got flash, which is also new and interestingly awesome for this. It's got white colorless flash, 2/2. Whenever an opponent searches their library, you gain 1 life and draw a card. And I don't know about your play groups, but there's a lot of searching libraries for fetched lands and this, that, and the other thing, and wilds and those kinds of things. So this usually is going to fetch you a few cards for surezies. Commune with Lava, a totally swappable card if need be, but it does give you good card draw, so to speak. Exile the top X cards of your library, because it's technically not draw, so you got to use them until the end of your next turn. That's important. Just keep that in mind when you do it. Mind's Eye for 5. Whenever an opponent draws a card, you may pay 1. If you do, draw a card. Because we're ramping so much, you're hopefully going to have that available mana to go ahead and draw more cards. That is super important, because as we all know, red has a tendency to run out of cards in hand faster than the other colors. Reforge the Soul. Miracle. If you miracle this off, that's hilarious and good for you. But even if you don't, for 5, each player discards his or her hand, then draws 7 cards. Or for 2, you can miracle this and do the same thing. Spin of the wheel. Wheel of Fortune. All players must discard their hand and draw 7 new cards. So this is a couple $100 card, so if you don't have it, just proxy it in. And if your playgroups frowned upon proxying, then go get yourself one. Because if you're playing red, you need Wheel of Fortune, yo. Wheel of Misfortune, the next best thing. This is that thing where you choose a number and then you pay life based off of the number, and the highest person who chooses, I'm gonna, and you do it in secret, and you do like, I'm gonna spend 10 life. Well, you're probably gonna win because we got a life gain deck. So whoever wins draws 7 cards, dumps 7. There's such an easier way to say that than what's on that card. Engrath's Marauders for 7. If a source you control would deal damage to a permanent or player, it deals double that damage to that permanent or player instead. Yeah, buddy. Again, we're in life gain, so we're not worried about that. All right, like I was saying, Brash Taunter. Whenever Brash Taunter is dealt damage, like, I don't know, a Blasphemous Act, it deals that much damage to target opponent. And for 3, Brash Taunter fights another target creature. That's just an extra funny thing you can do if somebody has a giant creature and you want to, they have an 8/8 or 10/10 and you fight it, and then you send that 8/8, 8 damage or 10 damage elsewhere. Fiery Emancipation, like I was saying, if a source you control will deal damage to a permanent player, it deals triple that damage to that permanent or player instead. Ooh-wee! That goes your way too. Just don't forget that part. Furnace of Wrath. If a source would deal damage to a creature or player, deals double. So we got Emancipation and Wrath going on, doing the same thing. Just tasty vittles. And notice the cost of it. That's why one's trip and one's double. And this one's way older card, y'all. Y'all. Did I just y'all you? Yo'd you and y'alled you in the same episode. Casilla Blade of Goldenite. 4 red, white. Yes, it is. It's expensive to drop onto the battlefield, but it is worth it for what it does. Yeah, it's an angel. It's a 5/5, etc., flying first strike. But if a source would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, that source deals double that damage to that player or permanent instead. Yes, let's hope we have our commander out getting lifelink for that. And then on top of that, if a source would deal damage to you or a permanent you control, prevent half that damage rounded up. Excellent. Excellent indeed. Yes, Mr. Burns. I am Mr. Burns. Rem Carolus. I don't know if I said that right. Stalwart Slayer. Colorless red, white, flying haste, 2/3. If a spell would deal damage to you or another permanent you control, prevent that damage. Ooh-wee. If a spell would deal damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage +1. +1, that's fine, whatever. But that first part is why we have this in our deck. Extra burn section. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, repercussion deals that much damage to that creature's controller. Ooh, you see that synergy going on now? And it's only a 3-drop. Repercussion. Is it repercussion or repercussion? I don't know. Stuffy Doll. Extra burn. Shouldn't Brash Taunter be an extra burn too? Maybe it is. I don't know. Stuffy Doll. Indestructible. As Stuffy Doll enters the battlefield, choose a player. Not quite as cool as Brash Taunter because you got to choose one and then stick to it, and that's fine, whatever. Whenever it is dealt damage, it deals that much damage to the chosen player. And you can always deal itself damage, which then goes for 1. You got it. You got it, right? Oh, Riceroni. Toralf, God of Fury. God of Fury. Trample. Whenever a creature or planeswalker an opponent controls is dealt excess non-combat damage, which is going to be most of the time in this deck. It deals damage equal to the excess to any target other than that permanent. Any target. To the face. To the face. And let's flip the card. Gotta flip it. We will not be using this side. Equipped creature has 1 red. Tap, unattach it. It deals 3 damage to any target. I mean, if in a pinch you want to hit that last couple damage to somebody's face to win the game, by all means. But you're definitely not going to be equipping this just to get the +3, y'all. Y'all. I'm from the south, y'all. I'm not actually. Volcanic Offering 5. Destroy target non-basic land you don't control and target non-basic land of an opponent's choice you don't control. So all upside for you. Deals 7 damage to target creature you don't control and 7 damage to target creature of an opponent's choice you don't control. This one is swappable. Just in case you're wondering. All right, we got the typical stuff for land, but unique enough, so we're going to go through it. All right, we got Ancient Tomb, tap for 2, deals 2 to your face. We got the Fetch Land. We got the Ping Land, or Pain Land. This one, who shelters, Boseiju, who shelters all. This makes it so that your burn spells can't be countered, which is nice. You pay 2 life, add 1 colors to your mana pool. You spend that colorless for an instant or sorcery spell, and it cannot be countered. F you blue players. Yes. All right, Clifftop Retreat. Clifftop Retreat enters the battlefield tab unless you control a mountain or a plains, which you will definitely be controlling one of those. Command Tower, Forbidden Orchard to get the color of others. Yeah, handful of mountains. The Flip Land, Needle, Verge, Pathway, or the other side, which I can't remember what that's called, but the white or the red. Plains, yes. Plateau, yes, if you don't have Plateau, just swap it out for whatever other dual land you want. Or like I said previous, you could always put in a proxy. Oh, bad word. The word proxy. Rugged Prairie. Filters the colors for you. You pay a white, you pay a red, and then you can get any combo of those. Red, white. Yeah. Sacred Fannies. What was that? This is Shockland. Cost you 2 life to bring it in untapped. Shatter Skull. This is interesting because we got the red on the other side, which cost you 3 life to put it in untapped. Or on the flip, we got a nice little sorcery spell. Deals X damage divided as you choose among up to 2 target creatures. Only creatures and or planeswalkers, not to the face. Just remember that. If X is 6 or more, it does twice X, which is super awesome, especially if we have that excess damage thing going on to the face. And yeah, what's up with that? To the roof. All right, this one comes in untapped if you have more than 2 opponents. Man, I am in a froggy mood in this episode. I tell you what. Sunbaked. Pay 1 life. Ping, and then you can get other color. And you can also sack it for 1 and draw a card, which sometimes in red is really important. All right. Oh, this is the one where if you have 2 or more lands, comes in untapped. I like this land from Innistrad. One of the coolest things about Crimson Vow, in my opinion, are these comes in untapped if you have 2 or more lands. War Room, this is a totally swappable card, but we are running only 2 colors. So you can pay 3, tap, pay life equal to the number of colors, which is 2. So you pay 2 to draw a card. That's not bad, especially the fact that we are in a life gain red-white Boros deck. Aetherflux Reservoir. Pay 50 life and hit somebody for 50, and most likely game over. You win. You're the wiener. Golf clap. And in addition to this, don't forget the first part is whenever you cast a spell, you gain 1 life for each spell you've cast this turn. Yeah, sometimes that matters. Approach of the Second Sun. This is just in here for an alt win con. If it was cast from your hand and you cast another spell named Approach of the Second Sun this game, you win the game. Otherwise, return to your hand 7 from the top and boop. Cast it again. And notice it says cast. So if you cast it for a second time, you win the game, even if it gets countered. Yeah, buddy. It's pretty awesome. I won some game on Monday with Approach of the Second Sun. It was so hilarious. Whenever you can make Approach of the Second Sun happen, it's just good times. It's good times indeed for all. Radiant Scroll Wielder for 4. This one, instant sorcery spells you control have life link. In case you don't have your commander out and you want an alternate way to make this happen, at the beginning of your upkeep, exile an instant or sorcery card at random from your graveyard. You may cast it this turn. If a spell cast this way would be put into your graveyard, exile instead. So you're a little light in your hand and you need some action, Jackson. This is the way to do it. Great card. And by God, man, it's only a 20-cent card because it's so niche. So niche. Boros Charm, also a swappable card. For Scherzies. Why is this in protection? Oh, permanents you control gain indestructible until end of turn. That's why I put this in here. Not really for the deals 4 damage to target player or planeswalker. Although that will get you to the finish line if you're trying to just hit somebody for 4 life. Or double or trip that or whatever. Target creature gains double strike until end of turn. You most likely won't be using that in this particular build. Alright, protection, Dark Steel Dark Steel Plate. I'm just speaking faster than my brain can handle it. Indestructible. Equipped creature has indestructible equipped for 2. So for 5, you got an indestructible creature, yo. That's gonna get probably exiled for its troubles. Path. Can anyone envision that happening? Yeah, I can. All right. Protection, protection, protection. Mark of Asylum for 2. Prevent all non-combat damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. So if you don't have some of the other pieces out there and you need to do a mass board wipe and want to keep your creatures alive, this is one people will not be expecting at all. At all. Speaking of a card that people are not going to be expecting, this one is Fabuloso in life gain decks. When you have 30 or more life, flip it, and when you flip it, prevent all damage that would be dealt to creatures you control. This is an a-hole card. Embrace the a-hole. Teferi's Protection, because if I'm in white, I am always running. I should not use a definitive like always. I am most likely running Teferi's Protection. Cease to exist. Everything. Can't lose the game, can't win the game, can't lose life, can't gain life. Sweet. I mean, do I need to explain Teferi's Protection at this point? If you watch these episodes, you know what Teferi's Protection is. Timely Ward. You may cast this spell as though it had flash if it targets a commander. Oh boy. We're not doing Voltron, but this is very Voltron-esque. Voltronus. Enchanted creature has indestructible. All right, ramp. All the pieces you'd expect in ramp. Well, maybe not. Signet for our colors. This one is the maybe not. When it enters the battlefield, search your library for up to 2 basic plains cards. Reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under an opponent's control, if that player controls more lands than you green players, you may put a land card from your hand onto the battlefield. Thumbs double up for Archaeomancer's Map. Oh, I said it correctly. Boros, Signet, and our colors. Jessica's Will. We are playing red, so therefore we are playing Jessica's Will. If your commander's out, you get to do both. If not, you choose one. Add red for each card in target's opponent's hand. Early on, that's what we're doing. And or exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn. Super awesome card. When I saw that spoiled, I was like, ooh, that is a staple for red. And I was right. Keeper of the Accords. This is another one where if your opponents have more lands than you, at their end step, you get to grab a land and put it onto the battlefield. Tutor that land up for yourselves. If they have more creatures than you, you get to put it in a 1/1 white soldier creature token. We really want it for that land ramp shizzle. Speaking of which, some land tax. Actually kind of a swappable card, but again, we're trying to get as much land out there and to keep up with our opponents that are going to naturally end up with more lands than us because of the colors they're playing. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you may search your library for up to 3 basic land cards, reveal them, put them into your hand, then shuffle your library. So technically not ramp, but it's keeping you in check, getting them in your hand so that you don't have missed land drops. Yes, sir, Bob. Mana Geyser. Add red for each tapped land your opponents control. This one is going to really help you feed into these burn spells. Hell's Bells, yes. Neheb the Eternal for 5/4/6. Some would argue that this is a swappable card. I think you keep this in here. You're in red and you're trying to just really get a lot of red at your disposal. This is one of those ways to do it. Afflict 3, whenever this creature becomes blocked, defending player loses 3 life. We do not care about that part. At the beginning of your post-combat main phase, add red to your mana pool for each 1 life your opponent has lost this turn. So you whack them for an insane amount because of some of our burn spells, and then you get all of that in the form of a mana in a mana pool on second main phase. That can be a game winner for sure. Primal Amulets, more ramp. Instants and sorcery spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. That's the main part of the ramp. Whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a charge counter on Primal Amulet. Then if there are 4 or more charge counters on it, you transform it. And then the flip side of this is super nice too. Add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. When that mana is spent to cast an instance or sorcery spell, copy that spell and you may choose new targets for the copy. I don't think I need to explain that at all. Ruby Medallion is in here because most of our spells are red, or at the very least, Boros color. Red spells you cast cost 1 colorless to cast. Super helpful early game and gives us that extra mid-game, late game. Smothering Tithe. Treasures, we want treasures. Yes, we want them because we want to be able to mana dump into our spells. Whenever an opponent draws a card, those players may pay 2. If they don't, you get a treasure, which you can crack for a color of mana. Soul Ring, because, you know. Talisman in our colors. Treasonous Org, Dethrone. Whenever this creature attacks a player with the most life, or tied for the most life, put a 1/1 counter on it. That's fine. But more importantly, pay 3 life, add red to your mana pool. And that's as much as life as you want to pay to do that. So there's some fun little combos. I shouldn't say combo. There's some fun little things you can do with the paying down the incredible amount of life you probably have at this point to then play another spell in your hand. Oh, just the shenanigans that can happen through Org is pretty funny. And if you run this deck and you have serious shenanigans, please put it in the comments section, por favor. All right, removal. Darksteel Mutation is in here just because I think it's hilarious. And you can mutate their commanders and just shut down whatever crap they're trying to do. Enchanted creature is an insect, artifact creature with base power and toughness 0/1 and has indestructible. And it loses all other abilities, card types, and creature types. So funny. It's just, that's such a ridiculous card in white. Farewell for that reset button. Exile all artifacts, exile all creatures, exile all enchantments, exile all graveyards. Most likely you're going to be using Farewell to get rid of artifacts that are sticking around for artifact heavy builds, enchantments that are sticking around from enchantment heavy stuff, and possibly graveyards. Most likely you're not going to be exiling all creatures because you have so much removal in this build. Gamble for that persnickety permanent that you just got to get rid of. Search your library for a card, put that card. Oh, what am I talking about? Search your library. I just confused this with Chaos Warp. Don't mind me. And this should be not in removal. This should be in tutors, which it will be if you go look at this on Architect. Anyway, search your library for a card, put that card into your hand, discard a card at random, then shuffle. When you just got to try to save yourself from something bad going on, you can gamble. All right, removal. Heliod's Intervention, again, for stuff that's artifact and enchantment heavy. We can destroy X target artifacts and or enchantments. And if for some reason you need life still, this is a way to do it. But this is mostly to remove stuff. All right, Shenanigans. Drannith Magistrate. I just have this in here because it's an a-hole card. And why not? Your opponents can't cast spells from anywhere other than their hands. As in their commanders. They can't cast their commanders. So funny. So hilarious. And they can't cast stuff from graveyards. It's just... And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that this is a completely, utterly, 100% swappable card. Absolutely. All right, some treasure. Dockside Extortionist gives you treasures per the amount of opponents' artifacts and enchantments. Monologue Tax. Whenever an opponent casts their second spell each turn, you create a treasure token. Swappable card, but it does create us some nice treasures. Reckless Endeavor. Roll 2 d12s and choose one result. One of the results deals damage equal to that result to each creature, and the other result is treasure tokens equal to that result. We want the treasure, y'all. We want the treasure. All right, Stone Kiln Artist gets +1 for each artifact you control. I mean, that could get out of hand if we have a bunch of treasure we haven't used. Magecraft, whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, create a treasure token. That part is kind of more important. All right, we just are running one tutor. Search your library for an artifact or enchantment card and reveal that card to all players. Shuffle, put on top. Yizery Bob. Then we got our baby board, which we're not going to go through. All right, folks. We got through the episode. A couple things I could have edited out, but I'm not gonna. This is such a fun commander to play. It's fun. That's all I have to say. All right, MTG Friends, y'all. Peace.